Hello, beautiful ladies. Thanks for watching. I'm here with the wonderful Tammi Morrison. I'm so excited to have her as a guest, and I'm excited for everyone that's watching today. Let us know who is watching, where you're joining in from, and if you're watching the replay, because I know a lot of you all are at work, just put your comments up because we're here to support you. So thanks, everyone. And Tammy's an author. She's a healer. She's had an amazing life. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tammi.
All right. So my name is Tammi Morrison, and I'm 52 years old. That's first. And I'm a wife and a mother, a grandmother of two beautiful little boys, and one on the way. And it's been just a fulfilling life for me. In my 9 to 5, I've been a nurse for almost 30 years, and it's it's time for that to end. So I've been called to be a healer, and what that really means for me is just helping people to learn how to live their best life, to get rid of the limiting beliefs that block us and stop us from doing the things that we want to do. And Spirit has called me, even at this time, to help people to seriously heal from anything and everything. Because the thing is people don't realize that healing is possible. And because of the limiting beliefs and the way that we were raised, or the people that have been in our life, people deposit different things in our life. And sometimes they deposit really good things, and sometimes they deposit not so good things. And so I'm here to help people to find out what that is and then to be able to heal it. And I know it is not like a serious, super real concept to a lot of people, and it wasn't to myself as well. But I began this journey because I wanted to begin to heal myself. I actually lived I'm actually from Savannah, Georgia, and I've lived all up and down the East Coast. But for about 17 years, I lived in Columbia, South Carolina. And how I began on this journey was Spirit actually spoke to me one night at work, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget it. Um, and said it was time for you to leave this place. And so at that time, I really didn't know what that meant. I was thinking, time for me to leave this place. I mean, work, get off at 7 o'clock, know. And actually, I spoke to one of my friends at work and I shared that. And she said, well, we leave and we get off at 7 o'clock. And I was like, I don't think that's what that means. And so that began a journey that this was November 2012. And so January 2013, that began a journey. I left South Carolina with just the things I could pack in my car. And I was divorced at that time. My children were all grown up. So I sat them down and I said, it's time for mama to leave here. Now my children are pretty woo children. So they kind of, flow with whatever. And so they were like, okay. And they said, well, we're going to probably leave too. And they actually all did. But as I went on that journey, I just packed my car and I moved to Arizona, which I had a cousin there, and she said, you could stay with me. So that's, solved one problem. I could stay with her. I didn't have a job. I had a astronomical car note. So I had a lot of faith, and I really felt called to do this journey. And so as I did that journey, of course, so many things happened. And I almost felt like the children of Israel when I said one day, I said, God, you're going to take me from, a comfortable place where I knew people and I knew, so many people and to this place where, I don't really know nobody and these people are strange here where I'm at. And and I couldn't find a job. I had like temporary jobs, but not enough to really, just enough to sustain is what it was. So it was just enough to, pay my car note, give my cousin some money for staying in her place and buy some groceries. That really was about all it was. And so I was like, okay, this is not even cool because that was not the way I was used to living because I just, I worked a lot and I did so because I like things. I like to be able to pay bills. And so at this time, My body started getting sick. I mean, I started really having problems that I never had before. My blood pressure shot up like, oh my God. And never have I ever had blood pressure problems, you know. And so they were asking me, well, what kind of blood pressure pills do you take? And I said, I don't take nothing, you know, but my blood pressure is 170 over 100. So something is wrong. Yes. And so, so the doctor's like, okay, no, we're going to keep you overnight. We need to check this and that. And the bottom line was I was out,
Mm.
stressed out because, you know, it was a major move. I wasn't settled. I, you know, wasn't in my own place, and I'm not really used to that because I'm used to being in my own space. And you know, and it wasn't like it was a bad thing. It just was that I needed my own space. And so, you know, they get put me on some blood pressure pills and told me, you know, everything was good though. They did all these ultrasound and all this stuff, all these tests, all the blood work, everything came back fine. So I was like, okay, so something is going on. And this began this journey of healing. And then shortly after that, my gallbladder decided it was not going to cooperate with my body. And that was just like, it was like insult to injury almost, one thing on top of another. And so I think about it now, I could have gone so many different ways with that. You know, I could have gone, you know, oh, nothing ever works out for me. You know, I could have stepped into that mindset and said, you know, this is not good. You know, this is not going to work out. You know, I should have stayed where I was. You know, there were so many thoughts that, you know, kind of went through my mind, but I just allowed them to go through and just pass through. And then, you know, I was fortunate. God blessed me with a wonderful mentor that came into my life that really helped me to see, you know, who I was, you know, where I was called to go, because I knew that this was a pivotal time and a change in my life. And I knew that I was in transition, and that I knew enough to know that. And then when this beautiful, I call him a young man because he's a little bit older than me, but he's amazing. And he came into my life and he shared so many things about energy, and he shared the Bach flower remedies with me, and so many things that, you know, I didn't know, and stuff that really, really helped me to learn how to ground, and, you know, so many things. And so that was the beginning. Now that didn't like shift things immediately. That's one thing I really always want to get forward with people, is it wasn't like a magic wand. You know, there were things I had to do. He taught me how to do the shadow work, and how to really seriously go into journaling, you know, and how to sit with spirit and listen and hear, you know, instructions, and, you know, where I need to go and what I need to do. And so that was like priceless for me. And so I began this journey, and I decided I wanted to look at Reiki. So I started training in that and did Reiki master. I did all three of them all the way up to master. And then as that went along, I wasn't really sure about that because, to be honest with you, I could not remember all those symbols and stuff. So I was like, I don't know. But it did take me to a place where I began to really dive deep into energy healing. So I took a theta healing class. That was the next one. And theta healing is just another type of energy healing. You know, it connects you with um, the creator of all there is, God. And that resonated probably more with me just because I'm a God girl. You know, I love God. I love, you know, Jesus is my man. You know, Archangel Michael has been with me since I was could remember. And so I'm a God girl. And so that resonated with me, that you connect to the creator of all there is and bring the energy in to be able to heal. And so that really, you know, that set right with me. And then I moved on and I did sacred soul alignments, which actually, you know, went to the next level to me of theta healing. And that is something that, you know, you bring in different alignments and they create the healing. And you know what, and it's so hard to describe energy healing, you know, because even when I say it, I listen to myself and I'm like, okay, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
So it really is a connection, right? It's like, okay, here we go, this is it. So um, that has just brought me to so many different areas. And then after that, I did DNA activation practitioner, radical guide DNA activation practitioner. And that is just another level of energy healing where you go into the DNA strands and you begin to deal with that, and you take away the seals and open up the blocks and things that we all have because our DNA was shut down, because science says that only 2% of our DNA is even active. They call the rest of it junk. So that is another thing that is just like phenomenal to me. It was one of the most amazing energy healings that I personally have ever had. And that was why I decided to go and be a practitioner so I can help other people in that area. So what is happening for me is that all of these things that I've done are like, melding and combining into what God wanted me to do in order to help people to heal and to get to a place where they can even begin to see that they need it. Because a lot of people, what I've noticed, are comfortable in their dysfunction. They're comfortable with their diseases. They're comfortable with being in a place where they're in lack. So it is imperative that you make a decision and you decide that I want to change and I need to move to another place. I can open up and understand that just because these things were taught to me, or just because you know my mama said it, or just because my daddy told me, or just because my grandma told me, or my auntie, or whoever, my friend, that I've had for 50 years told me, it doesn't always have to be true. And it's not always right. So that was something that moved me to that. And my story, oh, you want to do the meditation?
Oh yeah, let's do a little whatever you have to share with us to kind of, I love that.
Okay. All right. So if you'll join me in taking a deep breath and closing your eyes, we're going to do just a short little meditation that I've found. So take a deep breath. And then I want you to see, feel, or imagine a golden light shining. And I want you to bring this light down from the heavens into your crown. And I want you to bring it through your chakras all the way into your heart. And then I want you to allow it to go down, down, down through all the rest of the chakras that we are aware of, all the way into our legs and our feet, all the way down, down, down into the heart of Mother Earth. And I want you to anchor that there. And then I want you to bring that light all the way up, bring it all the way up through your feet, through your legs, through your root, your sacral, your solar plexus, and into your heart. And I want you to anchor it there. I want you to take a deep breath. And then I want you to see that light and take it all the way up through your throat and your third eye, through your crown, all the way into Christ consciousness, all the way up, up, up. And you'll anchor it there. And then you'll feel the connection between Christ consciousness, your heart, and the heart of Mother Earth. And then I want you to look up and see this ball of light. And then I want you to step into it. And I want you to feel all the peace and all the comfort around you. And then I want you to look down and see an opening into the earth. And then feel yourself going down inside that ball into the earth and anchor there. Take a deep breath. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, well, whole, and complete. I now choose calmly and objectively to see my old patterns, and I am willing to make changes. I am teachable. I can learn. I am willing to change. I choose to have fun doing this. I choose to react as though I have found a treasure. When I discover something else to release, I see and feel myself changing moment by moment. Thoughts no longer have any power over me. I am the power in the world. I choose to be free. All is well in my world. I want you to take a deep breath and open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And thank you, Sarah, for watching. Sarah's watching from Oregon.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you for watching. All
So, what
right.
were you saying, Tammy?
Oh, I was saying, where are we going from there?
Oh, where are we going from there? Here's where we're going to go. Let's talk about. So, I know in the past that that I struggled with attracting the same kind of partner every time, and I
Yes.
didn't know why. And I was unaware of it. I mean, now I look back and I can see what was going on.
Yes.
Because I was the same person. Um, I mean, and a lot of times people want to say that there aren't any good men. Every guy that I go out with, or there are not many good partners or women. They're always the same. They're always cheaters, right? And then we're not taking responsibility for ourselves. So can you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
Oh,
For women out there that have no idea what's going on.
oh yeah. It's crazy when you think about it because for me, I'm going to share a little bit and then I'll go into it. For my story, I actually was married to a man for 20 years, and he did not know how to love. I mean, I could say a lot of things, but that basically is what it boiled down to, is he just did not know how to love, and he was a cheater. And so I wrote my book about that, actually, just to share, because I know that there are so many women out there with the same thing that you were talking about, Marquita. It's like, you keep getting the same person or whatever. And so for me, what I did was I took time, and I took like a year where I didn't even date anybody, and I took that time for myself so that I could just learn, about me. Because for one thing, after 20 years, you you lose yourself, in relationship and in all the things that you are, because I said, for me, I went from, being somebody's daughter to somebody's wife to somebody's mother, and where was I in all of that? And then the other thing is, we transition and we change. I don't know, women change every decade. We change, we want different things, and so for that, I just was like, okay, I need to heal. And the thing is, nobody told me that. This was not something that anybody shared. This was something that came straight from God, that, you need to take a break. And that's what I did. And so during that time, I took myself out to dinner. I treated myself. I like sports, so I spent a lot of time at the sports bars, watching the game, and I just did things sweet for myself. Like, I would buy myself roses because I like roses, and so I would buy myself a dozen of roses and bring them home. And sometimes I would even send myself stuff. Like, I would send myself roses, or I sent myself some candy one time, to work and stuff, and it was for me. so, so I learned how to, treat myself, because, my ex, like I said, he did things that people saw, and they thought, okay, he's so great and all that, because he bought me nice jewelry, and he bought me nice clothes and different things like that, so that people can see. But that didn't have anything to do with, the way that he was loving me. And so fast forward, I decided that, I wanted to put down what I wanted. So I actually wrote down the things that I wanted in a man. I said, okay, this is what I want. These are non-negotiables. These are things that that we can negotiate on. But these are certain things. This is what I gotta have. you know. One of them was good insurance, you know. So, so anyway, but what I started noticing is that, you know, when I set up my non-negotiables and the things that I was not going to tolerate, the things that I wanted, you know, then that was what started coming to me. You know, that started showing up in my awareness. And and what happens a lot of times is women don't take that time to figure out who they are, you know, and to decide what it is that they want. You know, they just they're and then they look at a lot of surface things. You know, you're looking at, you know, the way the man looks, or you know, what kind of car he drives, or you know, things like that that just don't even matter. You know, not in the big scheme of things. You know, what matters is, you know, how he treats you and how he feels about you and how he loves you. Because the thing is we are all have our own way to be loved. You know, the way that you like to be loved is different from the way that I like to be loved. And everybody else in the world, you know, everybody has their own particular, they call them love languages. You know, your love language
Yeah.
might be, you know, cuddles and, you know, hugs and things like that. My love language might be jewelry. You know, everybody has their different love language. My husband's love language is touch. He
Mm.
likes touch. If I touch him, that is like the best thing ever. I ain't got to do nothing else. You know? And so when you discover what your love language is, then you can figure out how to attract, you know, what it is that you're looking for. And then you'll begin to stop, you know, doing the same men, because I started seeing a lot of my friends and people that I knew, you know, coworkers and stuff, they would get rid of one man and then get another one, and they'd be talking about him, and I said, wait, I thought you got rid of John. And they say, no, this is Paul. I said, well, he sounds just like John, you know. And next thing you know, they're not together either. You know, they're not together because, you know, John was Paul and Paul was John, you know, because they didn't take time to, you know, decide, hey, you know, this, I don't want this, you know, and this, or, you know, a lot of times I noticed they would have like the same type of looking man. You know,
Yeah,
they,
I've heard that too. You know, you're like you get to that one, and I mean, you have that one. You maybe broke your heart, and then you try to find one that looks like him. Just, I mean, subconsciously, right? Your subconscious mind
yes,
is looking for the same thing, and until
yes.
you, yeah,
And it's like until you figure it out, or until you make the connection, I like to say, you know, until you make the connection, it's like, you know, you got to make the connection that, you know, this wasn't what you needed, apparently, because you're not with them. You know? And it's like, okay, you know, and then you got to see it, because a lot of times I notice women, they don't even see it, they don't even realize that this is the same man. You know, he
oh
might
yeah,
not be this type of cheater, but he might be the type that, you know, doesn't give you the time that you need, you know, because some people, that is their love language, is time, you know, connection time. They got to have time, you know, and a lot of women are like that. And I've met them, you know, and so that might be something that, you know, you didn't even look at. You didn't even see that that is one of your love languages. You like, you know, time. You like to spend time with the person, you know, and they might be aloof. And what I've noticed also is sometimes women will go, and not just women, I'm sure it's men as well. And, you know, I'm not discriminating against anybody, but, you know, a lot of times we'll go and we'll get somebody that is not ready for commitment. And I've seen that a lot of times. There are a lot of women, they get the same person that they're wonderful, they love them, they're so sweet, blah blah blah, but they don't really want to commit, you know. And if you want to commit, if you're a person that, you know, wants to commit, wants to be married or whatever, then they're not going to work for you, you know. And then they just keep getting the same one that is non-committal, and it's like, and they're wondering why they can't, you know, get this relationship together, because they got the same man, you know, that's non-committal. He does not want to commit, you know. And I know that was one thing for me. My husband now, who I met in Arizona after I took that move, he's like, he'll tell people, he said, you know, my wife told me that, she wasn't going to be my girlfriend for 20 years. That if I wasn't ready to commit and, get married, then, I might as well keep stepping. And that was exactly what I told him. And I was shocked that he actually remembered that, and he heard me, because sometimes, you say things and, people don't really hear you. And I didn't say it loud, and I wasn't ugly about it. I just was straightforward. I said, this is where I'm going, because I am not 20 years old anymore. And I don't want to be, running around here, dating everybody and all this stuff. I'm not interested in that. So if that's not where you want to be, then you need to go find where you want to be. And a lot of times what I notice is a lot of women don't, they don't, I don't know if they don't think enough of themselves to put that forward. I don't know. I don't know if maybe it's that they don't feel like they have the right to say that. But I believe that if you are looking for a relationship, then you're good to say what you want. I mean, if it's something that you don't want, then you need to tell them, hey, this is not for me. And a lot of times I notice that women are afraid,
Mm.
to come up and say, these are my needs, and this is what needs to be met. And if you can't do it, then you can get to stepping. You know?
Right, hit the road. Right, you're right. They are afraid because, I mean, well, they've got the society pressuring them, thinking that they've got to have someone, or their value depends on if they have a partner and if they're married or this
Yes.
or that, and so then they're just settling, and they didn't take the time like you did to learn really what it was important to them. That's the foundation of all of this,
Yes.
and not rushing into these relationships where we don't know, and we just want to turn our eyes to the red flags. That there are signs, and that,
Yes.
when you look back, you can see them. So you have to just go slow, or you are going to
Yes.
attract the ones. So yeah, and
Yes.
that deep soul searching of the break. Because I have a friend that did the same thing that you said. She was on like one of those dating sites, and she met this guy, and she wasn't dating, so they were friends for a year on the dating site. Afterwards, after her year was up, they dated, and now they're happily married. So yeah,
Yeah,
and he
because she took
protected them.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing is if they're the right person, it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? And if they're not the right person, then good riddance.
You're right. That's exactly right. If they're not the right person, willing to wait for you, willing to talk about a relationship, right?
Yes.
Willing to, I mean, if you can't have a conversation about something that important when you're dating, I'm not saying on the first date, but to get this groundwork established, then that's not the right person. The right person will be saying, if you want a relationship, right, the right person, your right person will say, I want one too. What can we do to work this out? What are your values? Let's see, where we stand on these on this groundwork, you know,
Yes.
because we skip over that so quickly into
Oh,
intimacy.
yes.
I mean, things have changed so much. I mean, we're talking after 5 dates, boom, that's it. And you know what? You know how Steve Harvey says 3 months at least before you get intimate and all that. But I mean, it it's just what's the darn rush here? No wonder things fall apart all over the
Exactly.
place.
It's like, just stop. Just wait. And
Yeah, we.
and you're right. I read his book too, and I actually gave it to my daughter. I was like, I
Mm,
need to read this book. Because I mean, it's so real. It's like, what are you rushing for? Especially if you feel like it could possibly be the rest of your life that you're with this person.
right, that's the
It's
point
like, okay,
right there. Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to be wanting someone for the rest of your life, then that's like buying a car. If someone said, okay, you're going to buy a car that's going to serve you for the rest of your life, you wouldn't just rush out and get one in the first week,
right. We would take our time, drive a
right?
few, see how they feel, all of that. And it's like, and people don't think about that in terms of the person that they want to be with. It's like, okay, take a minute, just chill, breathe. Now, for me, with my husband now, the first night that we went out, I knew. Matter of fact, I called my mother and I said, I think I just went out with my husband. And then after that, it's like things just started kind of falling in line. But, and he also felt the same, you know, but
Mm,
and he checked some boxes too. Some of the boxes that I had, he checked the boxes. And so that was another thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna just go ahead and jump in, and then we're not even gonna look at whether they are the person that I want to be with. And I noticed that too. A lot of women, especially, will jump in. Men too. Men are really bad about this. They'll jump in and just the first person, and they're just right there, and they're not even ready. You know what I mean? Like they just might have gotten out of a relationship yesterday. They're not
yeah.
ready. Because there's so many things that you have to resolve once you get out of a relationship. And it's like,
Well, yeah,
let's yeah, we
yeah.
have to we got to resolve some things. We have
All
to.
the hurt. You got to
Yeah.
learn the lessons of what didn't work. If you don't learn the lessons, you're going to go right back, attract the same person, and go through the same thing again.
Yes, like a hamster wheel. Just keep,
Hmm.
it's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep going, and instead of John, it's Paul, and then instead of Paul is Larry, instead of Larry is Victor. It's just all, but they're the same. you know.
You're describing my old life. Oh my gosh. I know. And then me like, well, where's the right one? Where is he? Where is he? What's wrong with me? Over, you know what I mean? Just that loop.
Yes, and that's the other thing. You start thinking, what's wrong with you, and to be honest, what's wrong with you is you didn't take the time, and you didn't actually sit down and just chill. That's what I tell people, like, just chill. Don't just be all rushing trying to get somebody just to have somebody. And a lot of women, men as well, especially, they just want to get somebody in their bed.
Hmm.
And my ex-husband actually, we talked, and he actually said, you know um I can't be alone. And I thought, that
Oh,
sure is right. Because he was complaining about his wife after me. And I said, because he said, I don't know, why I married her, and this, that, and the third. And he was just going on. And I just said, because later on we were able to talk. And I said, why'd you marry her? I said, you didn't love her. I said, so why would you do that? And he was like, well, he was like, well, Tam, I can't be alone. And I was like, yep, that is true. And that's the reason why you're, where you are. And this is what happens to a lot of people. They can't
hmm.
be alone. They don't know how to be alone with themselves and with their thoughts, and really to take some time. Like I said, it's just so imperative that people take time to just, be alone with their thoughts, and just to chill, and just to figure out what it is that they want. And it's amazing that that happens like that. And so then they jump right into, relationship after relationship after relationship. I know people that some people that have been married like 7 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah. That's interesting. But, yeah, jumping back and then, and not knowing, not valuing yourself, you're not,
Yes.
and that's another thing. Like when, when we are in a relationship, maybe 3 years down the road and we see what's going on here, being responsible and say, hey, you know what, when I, when first met you, I didn't present myself the right way. I was just wanting to be validated. So
Right, right.
I was doing everything I could. I was pretending to be the girl you wanted. And now look what's happened. You know what I mean? Because of my
Yes.
pretending, my desperation. Now we're in this 3-year relationship, at 3 years and everything's falling apart. But I mean, for me to take responsibility is very important, for these little games. And I don't mean games in a bad way, but unintentional games, you could call them, you know.
Yes. 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 Because that's really what they are. It's like,
Hmm.
we're playing this, you're playing a role,
Yeah.
and he might be playing a role too, and it's like, okay, but where's the right person, where
Yeah.
is the, yeah, it's like,
What's a
okay,
real person
right,
underneath these, in
real
these
person.
fake, these two personas. Where's the real person emerges, and then the people are like, who are you? That's not who I signed up for.
Yes, exactly. So that's a part of it too. It's like, let me figure out, what it is that I desire, and that's a piece, because it's like we have to get to that place where we know what we want, and a lot of people, they don't know. They look at the past, and it's so easy to, go and get the same thing you had, because the past, it. You know what I mean? It's like the devil,
Yeah, well, it's familiar. We love the things that are familiar to us.
Yes.
Our brain likes that, and but we can present new things to our brain. I mean, when we're living mindfully. If not, we're
Yeah.
on the autopilot.
Yep, and we're still just on that hamster wheel.
Yeah,
Just going and going and going. It's like, no, and it's wild that we're having even this conversation, because this is so common and so many people do it. And we're talking
sure.
about women, because we're women, but their men have the same issue as well. And people that are, gay, they have the same type of issues, same thing. And I've seen it now, because I have a lot of people that I've met over these last few years that are not in traditional relationships,
Hmm.
and they have the same issues, the same. So it's really just a people issue, the
Yeah.
same issues.
You're right. And it's about self-love and knowing yourself. Like you took the time to really know yourself, love
Yeah.
yourself. Someone said that when you were talking, they were saying, that's so beautiful. You loving on you. So
Yes.
I love that comment. So yeah, very true. And that's the key to shifting, shifting, knowing what you're
Yes.
looking for and going slow. All these, if you're doing the same behaviors, I
Yes.
mean, you weren't doing, but that after you realized who you were, then your criteria had shifted, you know,
Yes.
you were
Yes.
aware.
Yes. And you knew that, because what a lot of people do is they say, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. So they don't know what they don't want, but then they don't know what they want, so they're focusing on, what they don't want,
That's
like,
very true.
I don't want a cheater, you know, I don't want somebody that, doesn't give me the time. I don't want somebody that, doesn't say they love me or something, whatever. But you saying you know what you don't want, but then you don't put down what you want. You don't say what you desire, because that really is the key to attracting what it is that you want, when you begin to say what it is that you desire,
Yeah,
and
that's very true. And that's
yeah,
attracting it. You're not attract. So another key is not to attract it out of desperation, but to attract it out of, this divine place inside your soul.
yes,
And we're not desperate, we're very powerful creators. And
yes, yes,
that's the difference, because then when you're desperate, you'll just take whatever just to feel that, that
yes.
emptiness and satisfy that hole. But that's not the way to do it. You've got to satisfy that hole,
No, because
with,
it doesn't last.
yeah. Well,
It's just a means to an end, basically.
right, you're right, and you're blocking the one that is really right for you once you get, once you tune into who you really are. So yeah,
Yes,
there's a
that
lot.
is deep, because it's like, and people don't realize that I actually had a conversation with the girl just recently about that. I said, now you might not like this, I said, but you came to me. I said, so this is not your guy. I said, basically, he's like a, a space filler.
Mm,
He's filling the space. I said, but he's blocking the one that God wants to send into your life. I said, but you're holding that up. I said, you're holding on. I said, because he's telling you that, in his actions, in his words, even, I see he's telling you that he's not ready and he's not the one for you at this time. Now, maybe if you want to wait 20 years for him, you can. But since you're at this place in your life where you want to have kids and you're getting to that age where you won't be able to do that soon, if you don't hurry up, you might want to consider that this ain't the one, 'cause he's already told you he doesn't want what you want.
yeah, that's
You
very important too, to listen to what they say. I mean, listen.
Yes,
We're
Yeah,
always like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it.
yes, because we put the blinders on and we just see what we want to see. And then later on, just like you said, when it falls apart, then you look back and you see all the flags, all the signs. You see what he said to you. I had a girl, I said, listen, I said, he said to you that he did not want to get married. He does not want any kids. Those are things that you said that you wanted. So he's not the one. You can't change him. I mean, you could have a baby or whatever, but it still doesn't mean he's going to be there. I said, so you can't change him. So you have to, decide what it is that you want. You want to continue to stay in this relationship that's not suiting you, or do you want to, get rid of that one and then take some time and allow the right one to come? Because I truly believe that there is somebody for everybody. But you have to take some time. You can't just be running around here all willy-nilly grabbing at the same shit you had. It's like, no. It's almost like when as you grow older, the things that you like and desire change. You
That's for
you
sure.
didn't you didn't like the same thing you liked when you were 15 now, right? I mean, some things, but I mean, the large majority of things you've shifted in, the things that you desire from 15 and to now, and so that's really kind of how we have to look at that. It's like, okay, what do I want? I was 20 at one time, and now I'm 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or wherever we are, because I actually had an aunt that um, met her soulmate in the assisted living place where she was at.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was amazing, because she was kind of a little bit she was a piece of work before. And when she met this man, she just changed. She shifted into, like, a really sweet person, a sweet spirit. She was not so much before, but it was like, this man just brought out the best in her.
Oh,
You know,
wow. That's
in
wonderful.
the assisted living house. It was pretty neat, I thought.
That is very neat.
Yeah, I mean, not that people want to wait that long, but still,
But never give up,
that's
right?
right. That's what
Never
I
give
thought.
up.
Even
Right.
so, yeah.
Right. I love that. Well, we could talk about this all day, but
Oh yeah,
you're going to have to come back. You're going to wrap. Well, let's wrap it up. But man, there's a lot to talk about. So yeah, you're going to have to come back, Tammy.
yeah,
And
because this is a big subject, right?
yeah, it is. And amazingly, I mean, it's rampant. So
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
right. So tell the ladies where they can find you, Tammy.
They can find me on Facebook at Unleashing Your True Self, or my personal profile even. They can find me on Instagram at I am Tammy Y Morrison. They can find me on YouTube, on my YouTube channel at Tammi Morrison. They can also find me on Twitter at Tammi Morrison 16. Um, I'm all over.
What about your book? Tell them about your book and anything else you want to
My
say.
book is
Yeah.
Walking Away, Winning the War Against Shame, Abuse, AIDS, and Abandonment. And that's me.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. That's
So
cute. I love
I
that
was,
picture.
it was amazing. And you can also get that on Amazon. And if you'd like to have an autographed copy, you can message me, and we'll go from there. But yeah, it's available on Amazon. I was trying to get it on Audibles, but Audibles is a little struggle. So I'm going to work on that some more so I can get it on Audibles, because I know a lot of people are like me. They like to listen to the books. So, but yeah, but that's been amazing. And right now I'm in the process of writing a book about it's like a tribute to my grandmother, called
Hmm.
Passing the Pearls.
What's it? Oh, Pathway to Pearls?
Passing the Pearls.
Passing the Pearls. Oh,
So
that's
it's yeah. So I'm super excited about that, because my grandmother was an amazing woman, and she passed a lot of pearls to me.
that's
She
beautiful.
actually, yeah, she created an amazing legacy for my family, and really, I think, the planet, to be honest with you. So I'm just super excited about that. So that should be. I'm really. working to get that done in the next probably 2 months, because it doesn't take me long to write as long as I sit down.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. So, is there anything else you wanted to share before we end this wonderful conversation?
I'm just so grateful for the opportunity, Marakita, for bringing me on. I thank you for it. It's just been awesome just to be able to get out here and share with the ladies about, how to just come to this place of healing. And then I have a group program that I'm working on right now that's going to start in September, and it's called Peeling Away the Layers, and it's going to be an amazing program to help women and even men if they would like to join. But I'm really looking for women to come in and learn how to heal. Just take those steps and learn how to peel back those layers so that they can access the healing that belongs to all of us.
Mm,
So if
I
you're
bet you.
interested in that, send me a message.
Yeah, ladies, take advantage of this. It sounds wonderful. We all can heal no matter what stage we're at.
Oh
Like you said,
yes,
the layers, peel back the layers.
yes.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tammy, and thank you, ladies, for watching. Send us your questions, anything. Reach out to Tammy. She's a wealth of knowledge and and healing power. So,
Thank
well,
you.
I'm wishing everyone a blessed day. Thank you again, Tammy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.